and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, on a gray Tuesday afternoon, first week of January. I came out after lunch to the shop, and I had a good idea what I was going to do, but I had a parts delivery, and I allowed it to take me down a different rabbit hole, because as you know, I have many projects going on at one time. In the background, and I wasn't going to cover a lot of it, I've been working on all the tiny details so I could actually call this engine the 377 small block I've been building for 3 years now, off and on, to finally call it finished and ready to run, or awful close. So it's all in the details. I interject a lot of details in my video, but this video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to tell you most everything that goes on in my head when I'm trying to, work things out. Right or wrong, you have to go by what you believe in, what you've learned from mistakes from the past, and move forward. So I try not to repeat any mistakes I may have made in the past. Sometimes you're, have new experiences and you're learning for the first time. So nothing real earth-shattering on this engine today. I found some 7/8 ID oil hose to connect my air cleaner to the valve cover. I had to buy 3 feet of it for 20 bucks. I'm going to use 3 or 4 inches of it, but that's the level I will go to. I have totes and whatnot full of, I've tried to segregate all my small block Chevy parts, that I never had any small block Chevy parts until a few years ago when I decided I wanted to build a couple, because I never had a good small block, what I'd call a good small block. I had lots of stock ones or warmed over, but none that I built from scratch for myself. Lots for other people, none for myself. So in my bucket of parts, I found a brand new thermostat housing and a Murray 180-degree thermostat. I save all my little box tops and whatnot with the part numbers on them, and I will make a file for the 377, so it's kind of handy should you want to go on a trip or whatever reason you blow the belt off and you can't find it in the road. You have kept that information, the intake manifold gaskets, head gaskets, etc. I want to know if I need parts, what to get. Hopefully I won't need any parts, but you know how that goes. So this is going, I believe, at this point in time, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna go in my 56 Chevy 210 handyman wagon. It's a 2-door wagon, flat black. It's kind of cool, needs lots of work. But small block, Doug Nash 5-speed, 9-inch Ford is the combo. So in a Tri-5 Chevy, the upper hose goes straight. I happen to have a brand new chrome one, and like the aforementioned thermostat, I'm not in love with the bolts. On the 496 project, I had just bought a couple hundred stainless AN washers, so I put those under the bolts with the lock washers. Still didn't love it. I really want to run a flange bolt. All the flange bolts that I've bought in 3/8 for Turbo 400 builds are gold. And I said, wow, that would look dumb. And then I looked down at the fuel pump, and I attached that with a gold flange bolt. So I'm going to do the same over here. I gave myself permission to do that. But last night, I was looking through my new O'Reilly Auto Parts app, and I had saved a quote for a alternator water pump belt for the 377 and for the 496. So I hit send, and when I walked down to the shop after lunch today, I had belts. I, being a child of the 70s and 80s, I know what application I want to buy a belt for. You see lots of people moaning about, their new parts people can't look anything up. I don't go near a parts place without knowing what I want, unless I happen to be broke down and I'm walking, and then I'm going to have to rely on the guy behind the counter or girl to figure out what I need. I'd rather know what I need. And fortunately, I can look up my own parts on there, but if I didn't, I would start, up here and work my way down. So on a Tri-5 Chevy, it runs a short water pump with long brackets, and it actually had a generator mounted over here, and then over time they made brackets to adapt an alternator, but the thing is way out here, got a really long belt, probably not great for high RPM, but if you go back 3 summers ago, when I was assembling the 377 and the 421 next to it, I chose a Mylodon aluminum timing cover to help, secure the roller cam with a button. I didn't want a tin cover flexing. That cover's too thick to run a short water pump without doing a whole lot of machining, and I didn't want to. So at the time, I wasn't sure where the engine was going. I'm okay with the long water pump. I know it clears on a Tri-5, so I went ahead and got all long water pump brackets, which mounts the alternator over here, like GM started doing around 1970. So, pick a second-gen Camaro with a small block or a Nova or whatever, but Camaro's pretty popular. Better chance of the lookup being correct. I just picked the water pump and alternator belt for a 75 Camaro with a 350, and boom, it's perfect. For the 496, I just chose a 70 Chevelle. I had one. It had all the same bracket layout. They weren't fancy like these are. They were stock, but still, I haven't put the belt on that yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the right length. And hard to believe, but this day and age, this belt is less than $8. Occasionally, you get a bargain. So now I had a belt. I just have to secure everything. So I'm missing a few things. One, I bought these single groove pulleys, so I don't have, I have a single groove lower as well. There's no power steering on these cars, on my 56 wagon anyway. When I put it together, it's going to be manual steering. I only need one belt, one groove, upper and lower. So on eBay, I found a pair of these. Might have even been at the swap meet, but I think it was eBay. Again, not in love with the look. However, my bracket has holes. I guess I'm going for a look. I achieved it. But these aluminum pulleys have a conical or tapered hole. There's actually only like an 1/8 inch of the actual pulley that would ride on a stud. You'd have to put a big washer out here or something. So I decided to secure some conical head 5/16 fine thread bolts. And they pretty much fit. They're a little too thick, but they stick out just a little bit, but who cares? I bought those, and before I go any further, I wanted to make sure they're not going to come out. So, little blue Loctite. I roughly put them in with the ratchet and a 3/16 Allen socket. Then I went and wrapped a rag around a 1/2 inch extension about yay big, stuck it in the hole, got a longer ratchet, and I made sure they're as tight as I dare to tighten them. And someday, I hope they come out hard. I hope they don't come out by themselves. I'm not going to run a mechanical fan that I'm aware of. I'm going to have electric fans. This should be final. Should I have to run a mechanical fan with a spacer, that'll alleviate any pulley problems. I believe it'll center on the snout and push on the face, and it will be fine with a spacer and a fan. I just don't want one, at least today. So we did that. Moving forward. The alternator bracket kit I bought, I think it was a kit, they don't give you the spacer that goes between the alternator lower housing and the cylinder head. It's 3 1/4 inches. So I got to make one. So that was what I was doing when I decided, you know what? I'm going to send people down, the thought process in my head, how I'm going to do a simple job, and it's probably going to take me 2 hours, but I'm going to do it the best I can. So let's go to the lathe, because we have to make a spacer. I knew I wanted it to be aluminum and round in my Hirsch shifter cabinet. These are all the leftover pieces from rods. I found one slightly longer than 3 1/4, and I was on my way with the raw material toward the lathe. I save all the pieces. I'll clean that and put that back. Someday that'll be a spacer, I'm sure. And now for the fun part. However, there's some danger involved because I'm home alone. My son's at school. He'll be home in an hour and a half. My wife had to go into the office today. If this thing I love using the lathe, but it wants to hurt you all the time. There's open spinning things, and I am wearing improper clothing. Some will tell you shouldn't wear gloves. These save me more often than not. The beard, I try not to get close. I don't lean in close to it. But this shaft is spinning all the time. You have to be super careful not to make a mistake, and it's hard when you're concentrating to not do it. But before I go over here, I had to make this piece of aluminum shorter. I recently bought, with a tip from my brother, a new potting tool for the lathe. It's big enough, I could make it fit this lathe, but it fits the other lathe better. This would have been an awesome time to try it out. But I took the easy way and I used a chop saw, cleaned the end up in the lathe before I started drilling, speeding up the process, not fulfilling my need to try out my new cutoff tool. But with the other lathe, it's 3-phase. I gotta run a cord, fire up the phase converter, another 5 minutes, but I'll have to park that somewhere else. I like to have all these experiences, so I'm ready to do a better job. I've already tried it on something that was inconsequential before you ruin a lot of good parts. I should have been practicing with this potting tool. It's kind of like welding. I talk to myself all the time. I ought to be practicing more, but it seldom happens until I'm ready to work on the real pot. So I faced either end of it, trying to not get below 3 1/4. I marked it with a Sharpie, left the whole line, gave myself a little room to clean both ends of the rod up. And then it's time to drill the hole. Pilot hole, I keep this in this chuck all the time. I had a 21/64 already here because that's what I use for my shifter rods. I recently used it to make the rear anti-sway bar links for the 47 Ford pickup project. So that was already sitting here. Drilling aluminum, when I'm only doing a rod end for a shifter, I'm probably going in 2 inches or more, about 2 1/4. I can go in one shot. I just crank the wheel and it goes in pretty good. But going all the way through 3 1/4, you get about 3 inches in and the chips are no longer wanting to come off. I mean, it gives you big, long chips. Also got to be careful of the chips. But you're better off at some point just to turn it around. And then to finish it, my 3/8, because the bolt is 3/8 going through the alternator. Yeah, I shouldn't need to go 25/64 or bigger. I could, because it's just a spacer, but I'm going to start at 3/8. So this is, again, more my thought process. Do I want it loose to start with? Do I know to go through there? Or do I want to start pretty tight? Maybe down the road you get corrosion in there. It's probably going to be stuck to the bolt, where if it was a little bit bigger on the inside, it wouldn't. These are all things that just come rushing through my mind. You're going to be tired by the time you watch this video. No wonder I'm going to take a nap later. So, same deal. I got, most of the way through it, turned it around, and now I'm clear to do one more dangerous operation on the little lathe here. And I'm going to move it out quite a ways and polish it. I just got some emery paper, try not to get caught up in it, but I like raw aluminum, the look. I prefer it over polished, actually. And let me do that. I won't force you to listen to that thing run. And then we'll take a look at the spacer and see if it fits. Yes, I put on my safety glasses, also known as my real glasses. A long time ago, I made a nice holder for my chuck key, so as you don't get in the habit of leaving it on there. And before I put the lathe away, I just wipe off the ways with my semi-oily paintbrush and release the belt underneath and kill the power. Now I just got to clean out the inside and we'll go see if it fits. I was at a yard sale one time. I bought a 5-gallon bucket full of tape measures. When I went to measure for the spacer, I didn't have to go very far. So let's see how we did. That started through. One spacer Rooney. That's going to work. Let's get it a little tighter first. So we'll just move. Go ahead and tighten these up too. Of course, I'll go back and retighten because you know me. That stuff's getting pretty tight, so back it around a little bit. One belt. I like to put it so I can read the number because that's just the way I am. A little higher up on the slot, but then again, this slot isn't factory, so. But it gives me more room for the fuel line, which is one of the next projects. New belts are going to break in. When I first started working on police cars, you had to start really tight because you knew they were going to break in. I can tell by eye it looks pretty good already. I didn't put a lock washer on that. I'm going to have to take it back off and do that because that's the way I look. But boy, when I look down it looks fantastic. So I got lots of room now underneath to run an AN fuel line. I prefer underneath with some kind of thermal sleeve than up here where the wiring is for the alternator. So probably don't want, arcing through the fuel line. But that's a win. Although if I got a lock washer there, I have to put one in every position because that's me. So I'll take it back apart and fix that. But that was a small look into the troubled inner workings of my brain. But this is the only way I know how to get a quality outcome that I can trust. If I skip any of these steps, things end up crooked or whatever. It's just going to have to be redone or cause problems down the road if you actually try to run it. So that's it. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.